my Unit 3 project video, I will be discussing the characteristics of bacteria, how bacteria becomes resistant to antibiotics, some of the causes and conditions that have led to the rise of antibiotic resistance, the risks of antibiotic resistance in the US and around the world, and some current solutions to slow and combat the rise of antibiotic resistance. Bacteria can be categorized in various species, which can make it difficult to identify common characteristics. Regardless, there are three distinct characteristics that can be found among the traits of bacteria, such as having no membrane organelles, they are unicellular, and they are typically microscopic sized. According to LibreTexts, bacteria constitute a large domain of prokaryotic microorganisms. Bacteria were among the first life forms to appear on Earth and are present in most habitats on the planet. Bacteria grow in soil, acidic hot springs, radioactive wastes, water, and deep in the Earth's crust. Bacteria becomes resistant to antibiotics the instant that bacteria is exposed to an antibiotic. The bacteria that are most receptive to the antibiotic will die immediately, while also making it possible for any remaining bacteria that is resistant to antibiotics to be passed on from generation to generation. According to the Alliance for the Prudent Use of Antibiotics, a characteristic must be hereditary so that natural selection can take effect on the heritable trait. So if bacteria can acquire antibiotic resistance genes from other bacteria by undergoing a mating process called conjugation, then the bacteria can transfer genetic material, which includes genes encoding resistance to antibiotics, from one bacterium to another. It is also important to note that it's not humans who are becoming resistant to antibiotics, but the bacteria itself. Variation of traits that are heritable for bacteria depends on the random mutations of bacterial DNA that generates a wide variety of genetic changes. Antibiotic defense mechanisms can be developed by antibiotic-resistant bacteria through mutation and selection. The variation of bacteria is highly adaptable within their domain because bacteria that is resistant to antibiotics can easily be reproduced since they transfer components of DNA between other organisms. Subsequently, using one antibiotic to treat a bacterial infection may result in other kinds of bacteria developing resistance to that specific antibiotic, as well as to other types of antibiotics. Some of the causes and conditions that have led to the rise of antibiotic resistance among bacteria can be seen in the excessive intake of antibiotics, which has created stronger bacterium. Some bacteria are already resistant to common antibiotics, so when bacteria becomes resistant to antibiotics, it can be a lot harder and more expensive to treat an infection. And since bacteria is becoming more and more resistant to antibiotics, new drugs need to be produced because current drugs are seemingly becoming ineffective. The CDC estimates that 23,000 annual US deaths and $20 billion in excess direct health costs are the result of antibiotic resistance. While the real magnitude of the problem is unknown, the monetary cost of treating antibiotic-resistant infections worldwide is estimated to be many billions of dollars per year. Some experts predict that as resistance to antibiotics is increasing at a faster pace than it can be controlled, the future will resemble the pre-antibiotic era. And others are more optimistic that research and careful drug management can reverse the trend if global efforts are focused on recognizing and controlling it. The CDC is taking an initiative on preventing resistant infections across healthcare settings, food, and communities by putting AR solutions, which is antibiotic resistance, into effect. Some ways they are implementing possible solutions to slow down and combat the rise of antibiotic resistance are by using laboratories and diagnostics in order to detect, respond, and contain resistant pathogens, and epidemiology capacity in state and local health departments and some countries for rapid response to outbreaks and emerging resistance to contain and control spread. Also, in order to encourage innovation for new strateg- strategies, drugs, and diagnostics by partnering with state and local public health department, academia, and healthcare partners to exert developments of new drugs and diagnostics and to identify new ways to prevent antibiotic resistant infections and their spread in the US and abroad. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.